Well, she's back, and boy, howdy do I have a lot to talk about. We are going to talk about some random books that I have been reading lately, so if you're interested in this, we will go over this first. And then for those of you who have been curious, who have been like, where has this girl been? She said she'd be back in January. It's friggin' whenever. I actually don't know when this is going out, if it's in August or September, but like time has flied. And I know you guys were expecting me. I feel like there's a lot that I want to talk to you guys about. So we will talk about that at the end for those of you who are interested. But first, for the book lovers, here are some books that I have read since I've been gone. Since you've been gone. And it's a random mix because I thought it would be kind of fun to just show some variations. But basically, I am trying to read down my TBR because it has gotten out of hand and I haven't been reading as much this year as I have the previous years. So I've got a lot of catching up to do. But one book that was a super surprise for me, because I'm not a big fan of like young adult YA type of books, and this one kind of has that very young feeling, but I absolutely adored it. And that is The Only Black Girls in Town by Brandy Colbert. And this is about a young girl who is the only Black girl in her grade in her town. And one day she finds out that a new neighbor on her block, nonetheless, is another Black girl her age. And she gets so incredibly excited. And it ends up exploring what that is, that friendship, that dynamic, how that affects her and all of the people she's already around, what conversations are having. And also there's this little mystery discovery thing that they end up on because of, something that happens as the new person moves in. And this was actually great. I highly recommend this. I was just very pleasantly surprised in how enjoyable it was, despite it being for a younger audience than me. But yeah, it was a good time, good messaging, and very wholesome in some pretty good ways. Then another book that I've had on my TBR for a long time that I've been kind of like, maybe I don't know if I'm really into that, would be City of Saints and Thieves by Natalie C. Anderson. This one is a little bit more contemporary. I wasn't sure what to expect. I think I was thinking maybe it was like sci-fi or something, but it's not. It's really a story about a young girl who, after her mother passed away, had kind of turned to the streets, ended up in a little like gang situation, doing thievery jobs to pretty much take care of herself and also help support her younger sister. And she ends up getting this big job to kind of hit a high stakes person, but things kind of don't go as planned. And she ends up having to partner with somebody she wasn't expecting to partner with and uncover things that she wasn't expecting. And it ended up being really enjoyable. I really liked the commentary. I really liked the writing style. And I just like overall was like super invested, even though it was a general like theme and idea that I didn't really think that I would get behind, but I totally did. And it's another one that I would actually really recommend, and it's, a good standalone. Another book that threw me off would be The Dark Romance? Um, question mark. Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. And this one is wild, okay? Trigger warnings up the wazoo. This is a story about two people who are kidnapped by a psycho killer and who are forced to endure horrible things together for a period of time, and how that ends up affecting them. And so there are some questionable things that happen in here. There are some dark things that happen in here. I definitely would say this is really hard to like read. And I remember like starting off, because when I think of dark romances, a lot of what's come up to me has been, kind of the cheesy, mafia or, stalker guy, but she's into it sort of thing. And this is more of a literary commentary on two people experiencing something absolutely horrible and what it's like going through that and how that affects them and like how they react to each other while experiencing things like that. And so there's definitely good commentary that ends up happening. And for a while, I kept being all like, this is horrible. How do so many people like this? And, there's this like toxic element that's like happening, and there's just all of these like horrible things. And I don't know what's going on. And then I got it. I got it. I understand why people like this. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. I would say that I was happy with how it ended, even though it's not necessarily my favorite thing, but it veered away from what I was afraid of and went more in a direction that I was like, okay, yes, this makes sense. And yeah, I was surprised because it was a roller coaster. It was a what the hell am I reading to a oh no, like what? Why people to a like okay, maybe to no to oh, okay. So, yeah, that was definitely interesting. Now, before we get to the last book, I will say stay tuned because today is a double feature. So, we're also going to be having a like reading life vlog that comes out right with this. Because I wanted to be able to give you guys this update while then also doing normal content. So this ain't the normal content. This is kind of a like, here's some books I've been reading, and then here's what's been going on for the few of you who are interested in that information. So yeah, that's the context. And now, I guess, the last book to go over, How to End a Love Story by Yulin Quang. And this one is a romance around a young woman who is an author and has just gotten a TV series deal for her popular novel series. And this brings her in contact with somebody that she knew before who killed her sister? Yeah. So our main male love interest accidentally killed her sister many years prior. And I hated this book. I hated this book. I don't actually dislike the concept. I think that this would make for a really good premise. I don't like the way that it was done in this book. Specifically, we are set up for something different than what we get. We start this novel off at the funeral of this young girl's sister, and this boy who was arguably responsible for her death comes in, and she makes it very clear that her and her family don't think he should have gotten away with it and that he was responsible for this crime. And they tell him he's not welcome and kind of kick him out of the whole funeral space, and it ends there. And then we jump to the future when all of this other stuff is happening and they get kind of like reunited. And I don't think it's handled very well. It made me really dislike him as a character, even though I understood that there was going to be more to it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it was written. I didn't like their interactions. I hated them as a couple, like all of it. I feel like it was insensitive in the way that it was actually handled. And yeah, I wasn't a fan of it. Now, I've heard some people absolutely adore this, and I feel like because like the concept is interesting and I do think there are things that are kind of nice, it was really hard for me to enjoy anything that was nice in here because of how poorly everything was set up. So this was a no for me, dog. That is that for the books that I have read lately. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into what's been going on. Because I said that I was going to be back in January, but 2025 2025 is not my year, you guys. 2025 was rough. 2025 has been kicking me in the butt. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, okay? Even though 2025 sucked, and you're going to hear a lot of, yeah, not the greatest things for me, some pretty awesome stuff did also happen. Just a little pre-warning. But yes, so technically, it all starts at the end of 2024 when I decided to go on this mini break before we launched the new channel. And this was just supposed to be a quick thing, right? I was all like, hey, I want to do the new channel. I don't really take breaks very often. And once I have the new channel, it's going to be go, 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 go. So let's just have a couple months off. I can prep for like the new TBR game, and I'll be able to make some content to have, like have that in my back pocket so that I won't be stressing every week and all of this kind of stuff. And so I was real excited. I was so excited, but life happens. Work was working. I was busy and I was struggling with figuring out the TBR game and the things that I wanted to do. And even though I was filming and editing some things, I kept going back and forth on whether or not it was good enough and whatever. And then, the end of November rolls around and I'm like, I'm not really ready. We're supposed to launch January 1st. And like, I'm not ready. Like, I really need to hunker down and finish all of this stuff this last month. I do have some time off, but it's going to be a busy month. So like, I'm going to really have to take this serious. And so I start doing that the end of November and the beginning of December, but I don't get very far because your girl got sick. Yeah, I ended up getting the flu and I had it for a couple of weeks and it was pretty friggin' awful. And then it turned into walking pneumonia. And so I had to go to the hospital, figure out what was going on, get all of the antibiotics and deal with all of that stuff. And then I had that for a couple of weeks and that was not great. And then when I was starting to feel a little bit better, I ended up getting a stomach bug. And I was all like, you know what? This ain't it. This ain't it. And then I was planning on just pushing back the date a little bit because I did still have time off and I was starting to feel better when the time off was going to happen. So I was like, I can still, get prepared for everything. But I remembered that in January, I was changing my medication for my pre-existing medical conditions. And so I was like, yo, this is going to be rough because my body's really sensitive to a lot of that stuff. So I was like, maybe I should wait until I see how I handle that and get back into the groove of things before I launch stuff. So I was like, we'll do it either sometime in February or maybe we'll even move it to March. So that was like the plan because I was like, maybe I don't want to do it in February. The very beginning of January, before anything went down, I found out that a family friend passed away. And even though there was like distance between me and this person, like I had grown up with them. And so that was rough and it hit me harder than I thought it would. And it also meant, like things was happening in my life. I, flew back home so that I can go to like the funeral and spend time with my older sibling who was also, involved in all of this. And that was like really heavy. And then shortly after I found out that another family friend had passed away. And I was like, wow, this is like really, really hard. And that person, there was even more distance between them, but it was still kind of just like, wow, like this is happening, right? And so like I took that harder than I thought I would. But, when I came back, I decided like, hey, I'm gonna redo like my room so that I'm not so stressed in this area that I work in all the time. So I did a little like makeover of this, which I was really hoping to do some content of. You may or may not get that. I don't know. Like, that's a lot of work because I wasn't doing a good job of filming. Like I was documenting things that were happening in my life, but I wasn't filming with intention. So the footage exists, but it's not great. But yeah, so I had that little detour and then I realized that a big trip that I had been planning for was coming up and I decided that like I was gonna like make my clothes for it and I got really into that, which was perfect for this because I was able to make space for it when I was doing this makeover and I got really into that. And then little tiny unlucky things started happening to me. So like we went and we got groceries and the next day the fridge broke. And when I got somebody to come and fix it, they were like, "Hey, yo, sorry, this part they don't make it anymore, so you need to get this new expensive one. It's gonna cost, pretty much the price of an entire fridge." And so then I was all like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna buy a fridge instead. So I bought a new fridge. And once I got the new fridge, because like this ended up taking like a week and a half or something to sort that all out. Once the new fridge came, the next day, the dryer broke. And like I'm in a household with my family. And so if it was just me, in all honesty, I probably would have just been like, I guess I'm hanging my clothes to dry. But doing that to my entire family didn't really make sense. So I was like, okay, well, I need to get a new dryer. I want to, because the washer dryer takes up so much space and we don't have a lot of storage, it would be nice to get a washer and dryer. And since at this point, 3 appliances, not this year, one of them was last year, but 3 appliances have broke, my washer is probably going to be next. So why don't I bite the bullet now so that I don't have to deal with that, since this year is so unlucky. Think about this. This is going to be important later, okay? So I ended up getting a washer dryer combo. And after I ended up getting that, I'm prepping for this trip that I'm supposed to go on. And Kiwi gets sick. She ends up getting a urinary tract infection. And now she's had that previously. So like she's on medicated food for that. So like I wasn't surprised, but it ended up happening in the middle of the night. And so I ended up driving an hour and a half to take her to the ER so that we can get medication. I was like, she's old. So like she's going to need this medication. I can't wait until tomorrow to take her to her actual vet. So I drove all the way out there and they were like, yes, we're pretty sure that's it. Here's the stuff. But we also noticed some of her things are off. The blood work is a little funny. And like it could be this, but she's also really old. So it could be something else. And so you should take her to the vet very soon to get this blood work redone. Long story short, I take her the next week. I'm a week out from this trip that I've been planning since the prior year. A lot of stuff had already been paid for. Like I've been really excited about it. It's been a big deal. It's been like the one big trip that I have made for myself in years. So I'm a week out from this and I take her to get the updated blood work and the vet comes in and she's all like, your cat has stage 3 kidney disease. And so I panic, I freak out and I tell my older sibling, I'm like, Kiwi's got kidney disease. And they're like, shenanigans, my cat has kidney disease and she's had it for the past year. And I was so like, really? And so hope. A huge amount of hope. I was like, thank goodness, like there's something going on. Like this might work out. And so the next visit, because now I'm having all of these vet visits for Kiwi to deal with everything and prepare for me to leave and make sure that she's okay before I go. Because now I'm questioning, should I go on this trip? Like I know it's a big deal and like a lot of people are involved and it would really suck if I couldn't. But like also some shit's going on with my cat. And so I'm talking to the vet and she's all like, oh, here's some long-term plans. And so we're talking, months out, all of this stuff. We're going to be doing this. We'll be trying that. We're changing her food. We're doing all of this stuff. And so I'm feeling good. And I'm like, okay, I guess I will go on the trip. Like it seems I will regret it if I don't go. And it seems like she's doing really well. And then the day of the trip, as I'm, commuting to the airport, I get a call from the vet and they're like, hey, yo, we noticed that, some of the blood work stuff that we did the last time, this is happening. I think she should be put on these, whatever. It was some medication. When can you come get it? And I'm supposed to be gone for a week and a half, basically. And so I was all like, okay, let me get my stepmom to come. And they're like, okay, well, she can come get it on Monday. It'll be ready on Monday. And I was like, okay, that's after the big part of my trip is going to be done. That should be good. We'll all be, it'll work out, right? Like, but now I'm really nervous about this trip and whether or not I should do the second part of the trip, which is the longer part, but the one that affects the less people. The trip was great. We had a great time. I checked in. Kiwi was doing good. Everything was great. Had a blast. Ended up spending a lot of times with my friend. It was a whole vintage thing. So We were basically at like Catalina, and we went to this big ball, and we watched, you know, the Phantom of the Opera, the 1920s silent film version, and we just did all of this stuff, and it was an absolute blast. And all of the clothes that I wore, except for the red dress for the ball, I made. So I ended up making my clothes, and I was like really happy and really proud of that. And I was glad that I went because Kiwi was doing great. So I was like, this is fantastic. But Monday rolls around, and my stepmom, who was supposed to pick up the medication, doesn't. She tries to go, and they're closed for something, and she's not able to get it. And I'm stressing, and for some reason I'm like, I don't feel really comfortable with this. And now at this point, we were supposed to fly from LA to the Bay Area so that I can do the second part of my trip. And I panic, and I say, you know what? I think I need to go home. And spoiler alert, that was a really good decision. I needed to go home. I needed to go home because right when I got home, yeah, Kiwi got bad again. And so I had to take her to the emergency clinic again. And so I'm like panicking because, you know, we're supposed to be getting her on this new food and doing all of this stuff, and she's not liking it, and all of this is a struggle. And while all of this is going down, bringing it back, brand new washing machine breaks. Yeah, you know, the one that I bought so that I wouldn't have to worry about a washing machine breaking anytime soon, because my other washing machine technically was still fine. It was the dryer that needed to be replaced. So anyway, that breaks. And it's LG, by the way. Don't get them. They suck. It took a month and a half or like 2 months before I was able to get it fixed. They would not replace it, even though it was like 3 weeks into me having it. That's happening. I'm back with my cat. She's going downhill, and basically things get really bad to the point where they're like, hey, she's not going to get better. She's not eating anymore. She's struggling to use the bathroom. You're going to have to put her down. And so I scheduled a time to put her down, which ended up being the day I would have come back. So it's good that I came back early because I could have possibly missed that last bit of time with my cat. And I was able to do a lot of stuff with her. So I'm so incredibly fortunate. I did have to put her down. And it hurt. It hurt more than the other losses that I had experienced because there was distance between me and them. And even though they were like big people in my life growing up, they were my parents' friends, right? They were like, you know, the aunt and uncle kind of realm of family friends for me, versus Kiwi has been my baby for 16 years. She has been with me nearly 24/7 for 16 years. And so losing her hits me constantly. And at this point, like, it's not as hard because a couple of months have passed. But boy, it was rough when it first happened. And I was like embarrassed because I'm like, she's a cat, and I'm, you know, devastated, and I'm trying to just like move on and also be aware and understanding and of my feelings. And then I also felt shame at times that I was getting on faster than I feel like I should have for how important she was. Like, I was just going back and forth with my feelings, as you do with grief. And it was rough. So through all of this, I kept planning on and thinking on and trying to come back to YouTube, but like every time I was ready, something else would happen. Now, fortunately, I, you know, had my family around through all of this time, and I was like, thank goodness, you know, this happened before, you know, I was on my own. That was a big relief. And with that, my family was actually really like supportive of, you know, my dreams after, which was, you know, to get other pets. And so my stepmom was all like, "Oh, I get it. I understand why you need this. You need a dog. You've wanted one for the longest time. You should get it." And I wasn't actually planning on jumping into anything super soon after having or after losing her. But with all of the like support and the encouragement and like knowing that my family's not going to be here forever, like I was like, "Hey, maybe it wouldn't hurt getting them a little bit sooner." So I ended up, filling out an application to get ready to adopt a dog because it looked like that whole process was going to take a while. But like a week after putting in the application, they were like, "Hey, we've got some dogs that you can see." And I ended up seeing the dog that I ended up adopting. So I ended up going to the place and meeting Reese. And I knew that he was like shy and he had some issues, but we just kind of clicked to some degree. I was afraid though because he was still like hesitant and distant, but I don't know. I just knew he was the dog. And so I was going back and forth until I was allowed to actually like adopt him and take him home, just so that me and him can build a relationship and to make sure that like I wasn't making a big mistake. And yeah, then I was able to take him home and it was stressful because he's a puppy. Now he unfortunately he is a rescue. And even though he's a puppy, I got him at like 6 months. And his first, I guess, 5 months were pretty rough. At the shelter, they were saying it was like hard because he was struggling. He was struggling. And so I've been very stressed with this dog. I love him to pieces, but he's got like anxiety and he's definitely like shy and afraid of things. And it's a lot of work. And just having a puppy in general is a lot of work, but then having a puppy with anxiety disorder is extra work. And so, as much as I love it, it's definitely been a lot of work. And you'll probably see a good chunk of me going through that while I'm, reading books and having a good time. But I knew that, he's older than I was intending, and I want to have cats too. And I feel like the best way to do that is to integrate them when they are both young, and he's just getting older, so I knew I had to get cats, and my family was on board with that. My stepmom kept being like, "Oh, I have a coworker who just had kittens, maybe you can get one of their cats," and this, that, and the other. But I ended up seeing a post for some free kittens, and I went to go view them, and they were absolutely adorable and they loved each other, and so I ended up taking both of them. So I ended up with Graham and Tella, and they are absolutely chaotic little sweet treats. And so I have a little, sweet gang of pets. We've got Reese's Pieces Peanut Butter Cup and Graham Cracker and Nutella. And so they're the treat squad. And yeah, I'm really, really excited about like slowly integrating them. I'm gonna wait until the kittens are bigger. They are doing integration training. So like in safe environments, basically with the kittens in their case or with me holding Reese so that he doesn't like accidentally hurt them. I'm having them basically have very supervised interactions. I am so glad to be making content again. I just finished this like Sherlock Holmes, the complete novels and stories collection, which was a buddy read that I did with my older sibling. And I mentioned it in some of the vlogs that you're going to be seeing. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on those, stay tuned. And then we're actually about to start This Is How You Lose the Time War. So this is a short book that I can usually finish pretty quick, but we're going to be reading it over a month basically. So we'll be doing a quarter each week for 4 weeks. And then I have several projects and video reading vlogs and other things that I'm working on. And the vlog that's also going up today with this video, I'm also working on that right now. So yeah, I'm excited. And I'm so glad to be back. And I would love to hear, what have you guys been reading? Because I definitely am trying to read more and get back into things, although I will be focusing on my physical TBR as a big part of that because it's out of control. it is, everybody's all like, oh yes, my physical TBR is like 200 books. Oh my God, I'm horrible. And I'm all like, yeah, maybe triple that for me. Like, it's something insane. I don't know what it is, and I'm afraid to find out, but I am working on a red bookshelf organization video. We will be doing a physical TBR organization and shame video. So if you're interested in those, stay tuned. I will probably sprinkle in some, footage from the past. So if there's some stuff you want to see more, or if you have questions, I will try and get back to you guys. But yeah, I really want to say thank you to everybody who's already subscribed, who's been tuned in for this whole channel launch. Stay cozy, stay awesome, and I will catch you in the next one. Until then, bye.